Guys, what's going on? I hope you guys are well. Hope you guys are staying safe. I hope everything's good wherever you are. Guys, I've just seen, before we get into this video, smash the like button, hit the subscribe button, share the video as always, guys. As you know, I always ask you guys to share the videos. Hit the like button, of course. And yeah, we'll be doing a live stream tomorrow talking about various things, many things I want to talk about. And yeah, we'll definitely chop it down. I was going to do one today, but I was a bit late when I got back from the gym. So definitely tomorrow we'll do a live stream and we'll definitely talk some boxing. Guys, I want to touch up on a interview that I saw with Simon Jordan. There was Spencer Oliver, Kell Brook was there, and Kell Brook was talking about the Amir Khan fight, and Simon Jordan, wow, he put it on. He put it on. Well, I wouldn't say put it on Kell Brook. He gave an opinion, and fair play to Simon Jordan. I love listening to him. He's a must-watch TV, and he's not afraid to say what he thinks. I like people like that. He's not afraid, and he's not fake. He says what he thinks, and he's at times quite controversial because he says things that some people don't like. He doesn't care. Like if a guy's there, he'll say that I think you'll lose, or you know, he comes across quite controversial when he's not. He's just saying his opinion. And I feel like when you're working for a radio station or working for TalkSport, that's how you should be. You know, you should say how you feel. You should say what you think, and not because a guy's there and you said like now that he's there, you're going to change your mind because he's there just to, you know, make him feel better. No, Simon Jordan said prior to Kell Brook coming on, in I think a week 2 when this fight got announced, that he thought Amir Khan will win the fight, and he told Kell Brook to his face that I think Amir Khan's going to beat you. Now, what I want to talk about before I get into actually who I think wins and whatever is that Spencer Oliver, a guy that was actually a European champion, I think a European bantamweight champion, a guy that is actually the boxing expert, not Simon Jordan. Simon Jordan knows a lot about a lot of sports. You know, he follows it, and he's doing a job where he's talking about sports. So he has a lot of knowledge about a lot of sports, but he's not a boxing expert, so to speak. Spencer Oliver is a boxer who worked for Sky Sports, you know, who's actually an expert. And I actually think Simon Jordan was talking more sense than Spencer Oliver. Now, when you think about who's going to win a fight, that's an opinion. If I tell you that Khan's going to win, that's an opinion. Simon Jordan saying Khan's going to win is an opinion. Spencer Oliver saying Brook's going to win is an opinion. But for you to say that Kell Brook has had a better career than Khan, or to say that they've had a similar career, that's not opinion, that's nonsense. And I've seen a lot of people try to diminish Amir Khan's career. I think it's quite obvious. Anyone that's followed British boxing for any length of time, or anyone that's followed Amir Khan and Kell Brook's career from the start, and a lot of you who are my subscribers, a lot of you are from America, so you probably wouldn't have followed Kell Brook's early career. You would have probably followed Kell Brook's career when he was at world level. I followed Kell Brook because I'm here in Britain, and Ray and people like that. We would follow Kell Brook's career when Kell was coming up. So we know what level Kell Brook fought at for majority of his career, and then how he made his way to world level, right? There's no way, and I think most people would agree with me that are not biased and not pushing anything. There's no way that Kell Brook's had a better career than Amir Khan. There's just no way. It's just like when we go off what he's... let's go off the honours then first, as an amateur and pro. Amir Khan was a silver medalist. Kell Brook won nothing as an amateur. Nothing in terms of at world level honours, right? Then as a professional, Amir Khan was a unified champion at 140 pounds. Kell Brook was an IBF world champion. So let me explain what a unified champion means, because some people don't really know. And the difference between a unified champion and a world champion. A world champion is a guy that has captured a belt. So there's 4 belts: IBF, WBA, WBC, and WBO. If you capture one of those belts, you are a world champion, right? If you have 2 of those belts, then you are a unified champion. If you capture all 4 belts, then you are an undisputed champion. So Amir Khan was a unified champion. Kell Brook was a world champion. Kell Brook held the IBF belt. Amir Khan held the IBF and the WBA belt. He was a unified champion. So even if we go off their world honors at world level, Amir Khan's achieved more as in terms of the belts he owned. Now, people will say, well, Kell never got the opportunity. I can't judge somebody's career on what he could have done. It's like me saying, well, you know that guy, he could have done a PhD. He was intelligent enough to do a PhD, but he didn't do it. He didn't even do a degree. Or he did a degree, but you know what? He was intelligent enough. That's stupid. I can't judge somebody. I can only judge of what you've done, right? And what Kell did, he became a world champion, which is great. Like, how many fighters become world champions? That's a great achievement. But Amir Khan achieved more. He was a unified champion, right? And when you look down Amir Khan's resume, right? He beat Zab Judah, Louis Collazo, Marcus Maidana, Paulie Malignaggi, Andre Kotelnik. Yes, Alpastip Prime Barrera. But Alpastip Prime Barrera is probably Kell Brook's second best win. Would probably be Kell's second best win. Because Kell's second best win is Senchenko, who Paulie Malignaggi knocked out after Amir Khan knocked him out. Do you understand what I'm trying to say here? So Amir Khan knocked out Paulie Malignaggi in 2009, or stopped him in the 9th round. Paulie Malignaggi stopped Senchenko before Kell Brook stopped him. And that's Kell Brook's second best win in his career. And is Paulie Malignaggi even in Khan's top 5 best wins? Probably not. This is what I'm trying to say to people. And Spencer Oliver was actually saying Khan and Brook's careers were at a similar trajectory. Absolute nonsense. Now, if you think Brook is going to win this fight, that's fair. I don't have a problem with that because Brook can win this fight. It's a 50-50 fight and Brook might win. There's no doubt about it. Brook might win. But don't make stuff up and don't try to push agendas and try to bring Khan's career down just so you want to make Brook look better when it's quite clear, you know, that Amir Khan's had a better career than Kell Brook. It's not even up for debate. It's not up for debate, guys. You know, and I'm not even here as a Khan fan. I'm just telling you guys the truth. A guy that's been watching British boxing for a very long time. Yes, Kell Brook could have always have beaten Amir Khan. But I don't make it out like some Brook fans, delusionals, think that Brook wouldn't know. It was always a tough fight for both guys. Believe me. Khan had some attributes that would have caused Kell Brook all kinds of trouble. And Kell Brook had attributes that would have caused Amir Khan trouble. But here's the thing. February 19th is the judgment day. Because a lot of these Brook fans, delusional fans, that I hate on Amir Khan, it's not long away now. And I don't want to hear, and Burning Desire was somebody said that would you give Brook credit if he beats Khan and won't say Khan's, no, I'll give Brook credit. For sure, I'll give Brook credit if he wins. Because Brook is shot as well. Just like Amir Khan, Brook is also past his best. So if Brook beats Khan, he deserves to get credit for that fight. Of course, he deserves to get credit. So I will give Brook credit. But the point I'm trying to make is, even if Brook beats Amir Khan, he still hasn't had a better career than Amir Khan. He hasn't, because Khan's done more work. When they were in their prime, Khan has a better resume and he has done more work. He has beaten better fighters. Forget about the ones they lost. I don't want to hear about Kell fighting Golovkin and fighting all this because he lost those fights. Same with Amir fighting Canelo and Crawford. He lost those fights. I'm talking about the ones they won. I'm talking about their resumes and the fights that they won. Kell Brook doesn't have a resume at world level. He was a good fighter with a very poor resume. An underachieving fighter that never really did a lot at world level. His only win of any note was Sean Porter. That's the only win that Kell Brook had at world level. That's the only win. Whereas Khan's had so many wins at world level. And guys like Maidana and Malignaggi actually went on to win world titles after Khan beat them. And Zab Judah, people say that Zab Judah was a world champion. He was coming off wins against Lucas Matisse and who else did he come off a win against? I think it was Lucas Matisse. He was coming off a win against Lucas Matisse, right? And Lucas Matisse, everybody knows Lucas Matisse was an absolute monster puncher. Look at what he did to Lamont Peterson. He absolutely flattened him, right? And Zab Judah beat him. And Amir Khan absolutely battered Zab Judah. Then a year and a half, 2 years later, Zab Judah fought Danny Garcia, who had knocked Amir Khan out. And Zab Judah gave Danny Garcia life and death. The fight went 12 rounds, right? And Danny Garcia was in all kinds of trouble. And I've watched that fight. And yeah, Amir Khan knocked Zab Judah 2 years ago prior to Zab Judah fighting Garcia. Amir Khan knocked out Zab Judah in 6 rounds. But yeah, Amir Khan fought a shot Judah. Yet Judah gave Danny Garcia all kinds of trouble. Can you believe that nonsense? And this is what I say to a lot of people, that I have no problem. Kell Brook may beat Amir Khan. He may beat him on the February 19th. There's a good chance that Kell Brook may win that fight. But there's also a very good chance Amir might win the fight. We've all got our opinions. It's just an opinion. You see, when we're talking about a fight, it's an opinion. Nobody actually knows what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. Neither do you. It's an opinion. You're giving your opinion. But problem I have is when people start changing facts. That's the problem I have. You thinking that Kell Brook's had a better career than Khan is not an opinion. That's just stupidity as far as I'm concerned. Because I've just pointed out to you factually. That Khan's had a better career than Kell Brook. What I mean by that is Khan has won 2 belts. He was a unified champion. So when we're talking about facts, right? Khan was a unified champion. Kell was a world champion. There's no way anyone can point out. And when we look at their whole careers as amateur and pros, Amir Khan has always been at a higher level than Kell Brook. Kell Brooks has always been at a lower level. He's always been below Amir Khan. He's got an opportunity to beat him. That still won't mean he has a better career than Khan, but he'll have an opportunity to claw something back. Because yes, Simon Jordan made this point a couple of weeks ago where he said, yeah, Amir Khan's had a better career. Yeah, Amir Khan's beaten better fighters, but Kell Brook has an opportunity to beat Amir Khan. And if he loses to Amir Khan, oh my goodness, then then Khan's had a better career and Khan's gone on to beat him. So that is Kell Brook's motivation. Can Kell Brook win this fight? Absolutely. He can win this fight. Of course Kell Brook can win this fight. Look, Kell Brook right now has probably, and even when you think about it, it's a great opportunity for him because he probably thought he'd never get this fight. He's now got an opportunity to potentially beat Amir Khan. You see, and Kell Brooks, if he loses this fight, I believe it's going to be very, very difficult for him because he's always been bitter towards Amir Khan in terms of, look, for me, there's always been a bit of jealousy there. And jealousy in terms of, I think Brooks always looked at Khan and think that he's got what I've deserved. But really, he hasn't got what Khan's earned everything he got. He's always done more than Kell Brook. As an amateur and pro, he's achieved more. So you can't say, well, Kell Brook deserves more credit. Yeah, Kell Brook got what he deserved. He got what he deserved. Unfortunately, he didn't have the high-profile fights where people can give him enough credit. It's all ifs and buts with Kell Brook. He hasn't done enough at world level for me to say this, that, and the other. It's all like, what if? What if Kell did this? What if Kell did that? What if Kell Brook faced him? What if? You see, it's all what ifs. It's all what ifs. And that's the issue with Kell Brook. Now, in terms of this fight, I think it's a 50-50. I've said to you that I think Khan will win early or Kell Brook will win late. I think if Amir Khan comes out early, puts a flurry together, I think he could stun Kell Brook, and then I think he can jump on him and overwhelm him. I think if Kell Brook gets through 4 or 5 rounds, I think Kell Brook might hit him with a shot and potentially hurt him later on and stop him. Because Kell Brook is the bigger man. He is the naturally bigger fighter, and he's got more power. So if he gets Khan in the later rounds, yeah, he could probably knock Amir Khan out. But if I'm brutally honest with you, I'm leaning towards Khan, and I'm not with any confidence, but stylistically breaking things down at this point in their careers, I think the speed is going to be a huge problem. I do. I think the speed, like Kell Brook was saying, well, Amir Khan's fast, and what? Well, he's gonna find out when he gets in that ring what that speed's about, because that speed has troubled everybody that Khan's been, bar Crawford. And the reason why it wasn't able to trouble Crawford is because Amir wasn't as fast as he used to be when he fought Crawford. And also, Crawford's got very good feet. He's also very twitchy himself. So Crawford's got he judges distance very well. He's very fast and he moves out of distance very quickly. So Amir Khan at this point in his career, and at any point, would have had trouble with Crawford. But in his prime, it would have been more dangerous because Khan was also quicker on his feet in his prime, which he isn't anymore. The problem is with Brook. Brook is very static. He's very robotic. He's very slow. Compared to Amir Khan, he's very slow. And because they both regressed, Kell Brook is still going to be even slow. He's going to become even slower, but Amir Khan has got slower. So it evens itself out. But Amir Khan will still be far quicker on his feet and faster of hands than Kell Brook. So Kell Brook's going to have a lot of issues. Plus, Kell Brook's defense isn't great, just like Amir Khan's. But the difference is that Amir Khan's going to get off first. He's going to hit Kell Brook before Kell Brook hits him, in my opinion. And that's going to be the deciding. I believe that's going to be the deciding factor of the fight, whether Kell Brook can take Amir Khan's combination punches. Because I don't think at this point in his career, I think his chin, his punch resistance has regressed. I don't think he can take the shot like he used to in his prime. Because I didn't ever think that Amir Khan could stop Kell Brook in his prime. But I believe Amir Khan can hurt and stop Kell Brook now. And that's a big advantage, because for me, Amir Khan would have always beaten Kell Brook on points. But Kell Brook had a great opportunity to time Amir Khan and knock him out. But Amir Khan, for me, would have outboxed Kell Brook. He would have outpointed him in terms of winning rounds. But it's whether Kell Brook could have timed him and hit him and stopped him. The problem is in this fight is that now Amir Khan can hurt Kell Brook. And the fact that the weight's at 149, that actually favors Khan, not Kell Brook. And even if those 2 pounds, you think that Brook's not having to make 147, those 2 pounds actually favor Khan, because Khan is the naturally smaller guy. So, and I actually think Amir Khan might struggle to make 147. Not difficult. He could make it more comfortably than Brook. But actually, those 2 pounds will give Amir Khan more energy than Kell Brook. I don't think the 2 pounds for Kell Brook is going to make much difference at all, because I actually think Kell Brook is not a 149, 147 pound. He should be fighting at 154. Kell Brook should have always been fighting at 154. Kell Brook should have never been fighting at 147. The reason why Kell Brook fought at 147 is because Kell Brook wanted... I call these type of fighters, Errol Spence, Kell Brook, David Benavidez, they're kind of like weight bullies. So they try to use their size. They're very big guys for the weight. They try to use their size advantage, and it's almost like a weight bully where they should really be in the weight class above. And they kill themselves to make weight. They struggled, and that's why... And when you get into a fight where you're actually fighting against another top fighter that's going to push you, look what happened when Kell fought Spence. It hampered him. But Spence was a younger guy. He was a hungrier guy. Now, Spence may struggle the exact same thing if he was to fight Crawford. Because Spence is now at that stage in his career where he's going to start struggling to make weight. Because Spence shouldn't really now, like Crawford, he's easily making welterweight. He still has to cut weight, don't get me wrong. But making welterweight for Terence Crawford isn't as hard as it was for Kell Brook and Spence, because those guys are guys that come from 180, 190 to come to 147. Those are very, very big guys. They should really be fighting at 154. But the problem is, if they go to 154, they lose their size advantage that they have at welterweight. And that's why they don't want to move up to 154, because they would lose their size advantage that they have at welterweight. Kell Brook should have moved up to 154 ages ago. And really, if you look at Kell Brook, he never did anything at 154 in terms of having a world title shot, because that was never the intention. Instead, he came down at 147 and looked terrible at the scales, by the way, and drained himself, when really he could have gone up to 154 and maybe had a work. But I get the point. Look, I get it. He had eye sockets broken, and going to 154, fighting bigger guys and losing your weight advantage, it could be dangerous. If he fights a Charlo or fights a Castano, that could be, dangerous at that point in his career. But I'm talking about Kell Brook early on. You know, when Kell Brook should have moved up to 154 instead of chasing the Amir Khan fight was when Liam Smith became world champion. That's the fight that Kell Brook should have chased. Kell Brook was already a welterweight world champion. That was there. You know, Kell Brook was never going to go on to unify that division. You know, there was too many good fighters. Mayweather, Pacquiao, they would have beat him. You know, so Kell Brook really needed to move up to 154. And he, in my opinion, would have beaten Liam Smith at that point. Not now. Liam Smith would dismantle him now. But at that point, I believe he would have beaten Liam Smith. And by no means is that would have been an easy fight. That would have been a tough fight, but I would have favoured Kell Brook to win that fight. Kell Brook should have moved up to 154. And that's his biggest mistake. That's his biggest mistake. I think he definitely could have won a world title. Definitely. And who knows, the 154-pound division wasn't always that strong. Kell Brook might have been able to become a unified champion. You know, there was guys like Jarrett Hurd and guys like Julian Williams guys like that he would have maybe been able to beat. You know, I definitely think he could have beaten Jarrett Hurd. You know, I remember Jason Wellborn giving Jarrett Hurd a hard, terrible time. Kell Brook, in my opinion, would have beaten Jarrett Hurd. But this is the problem. Like, this is the same thing we were talking about Gennady Golovkin at a much higher level, that I don't feel sorry for Kell Brook because there was opportunities for Kell Brook which Kell Brook himself didn't want to take because Kell Brook looked at the bigger opportunities at welterweight financially. And he shouldn't really been at welterweight. He should have been at 154. But because of the Khan fight, and he's still, like 10 years later, I believe he should have moved up to 154 5-6 years ago. And he's now still almost fighting at welterweight. It's not good for him. It's not good for it. No, listen, that in itself and the styles of the fight, that's why I'm picking Amir Khan to knock him out. Or stop him early on in the fight because it's going to be difficult for him. You know, we already saw him get hurt against Crawford really badly. And we saw Sean Porter fight Crawford. We saw Amir Khan fight Crawford. And he took a lot more punishment than Kell Brook took against Crawford. So, for me, I think where Kell Brook went wrong is he should have moved up to 154 a long time ago. If Kell Brook moved up to 154 a long time ago, Kell Brook would have, in my opinion, maybe gone on to become a unified champion. You know, because like I said, there was guys there at 154, Liam Smith, you know, who I believe he could have beaten, Jarrett Hurd and, you know, Williams off. You know, there were so many guys, Tony Harrison. I'm not saying they wouldn't have been easy fights for Kell Brook. Kell could have lost those fights, but they were fights, winnable fights. But instead, he came back down to fight, you know, Terence Crawford, you know, and I just don't get it. I don't get the way his career was managed, to be honest with you. It's a bit of a shame because Kell Brook could have had a great career in his own right. But instead, if he loses to Amir Khan, he'll be remembered as the guy that, oh yeah, that's the guy that wanted to fight Khan, you know. And then they eventually fight and Khan got beat him. That's what Kell Brook might be remembered as. Whereas Kell Brook could have been remembered, oh, that was the multi-weight world champion Kell Brook who went up, won a world title at 147, went to Sean Porter, went backyard and beat Sean Porter when he was undefeated, then went and fought Liam Smith, you know, in a massive domestic fight and beat Liam Smith, then fought Jarrett Hurd and beat Jarrett Hurd and became a unified, like, you know, that could have been Kell Brook. That could have been Kell Brook. But it's all woulda, shoulda, coulda. And the only reason that didn't happen is because of Kell Brook. Kell Brook took the Gennady Golovkin fight instead of fighting Jesse Vargas because the Gennady Golovkin fight was a payday. Instead of fighting Jesse Vargas and becoming a unified champion at welterweight, and in a fight that he would have been favoured to win. Again, all these fights, I don't guarantee Kell Brook winning these fights because all of these guys that I'm mentioning are world level fighters. So the fight that I've mentioned, he beats Liam Smith, he beats Jarrett Hurd, you know, I'm not saying for sure he wouldn't. I would have favoured him in those fights. But he didn't take those fights. Those fights are not things that he was just looking for big fights, you know. I want to fight, you know, Khan. I want to fight this, that. And then he got backed up in a corner with the Spence situation. He didn't want to fight Spence. He had no choice because Khan fight wasn't going to happen and he had nowhere to go. So it was either vacate your belt or move up to 154. You know, and I believe like he should have moved up to 154 after after he lost to Golovkin. Firstly, I don't think he should have fought Golovkin. I think he should have fought Jesse Vargas, right? And like I said, I think I would have favored him to win against Jesse Vargas. He would have become a unified champion in the welterweight division. Kell would have become a unified champion in the... Like, Amir Khan was a unified champion at 140. The opportunities weren't at 140. Like Amir Khan had a massive fight, which I believe Timothy Bradley ducked. That would have been a huge fight because they were both unified champions. And Amir Khan and Tim Bradley would have probably fought. And that would have been a big fight, and it would have been a great fight, right? Because there were two great fighters. And I would have really loved to see that fight. Kell Brook would have potentially become a unified champion in the welterweight division where you've got guys like Mayweather, Pacquiao, Khan, Thurman, Danny Garcia, Sean Porter, like Errol Spence coming through. You had fighters like that. And instead of fighting Jesse Vargas, he went and basically fought Gennady Golovkin. That's probably one of the worst and dumbest things that a fighter has probably ever done. And listen, you have to blame everyone, the team, the promoter, you have to blame everyone because that was a stupid fight. That was a stupid fight. And I know people will say, well, Khan fought Canelo. Yeah, but Amir Khan had achieved a lot prior to fighting Canelo. So he had already done a lot. Kell Brook hadn't done much at world level. So that was an opportunity for him to make his career at world level by beating Jesse Vargas. Look, he beats Jesse Vargas. This man is an undefeated unified welterweight world champion. He could have got Mayweather. Imagine Mayweather probably would have fought him. Imagine if you become a unified champion in the welterweight division when you've got Mayweather and Pacquiao lurking about. Mayweather might have fought him. Manny Pacquiao might have fought Kell Brook. I just don't get it. Because Manny Pacquiao fought Jesse Vargas then. I think Jesse Vargas fought Manny Pacquiao instead. So you imagine Manny Pacquiao probably would have fought Kell Brook. If Jesse had fought Kell Brook and Kell Brook won that fight, Manny Pacquiao probably would have fought Kell Brook. That's the kind of... So you can imagine, and that fight maybe made Kell more money than the Golovkin fight. Manny Pacquiao was a bigger name than Golovkin at the time Golovkin fought Kell Brook. So can you imagine if Kell Brook had beaten Jesse Vargas and they had made that Manny Pacquiao fight, and Manny Pacquiao decided to come to UK, they could have sold out Sheffield, the Sheffield Stadium for that fight. They could have fought, so even if it's not Sheffield Stadium, they could have done it in London, maybe Wembley. I don't know, maybe Wembley would have sold out. I don't know. Kell Brook wasn't that kind of a name like that, but maybe Pacquiao could have sold it. Who knows? At that point, and who knows, at that point, Kell may have been a huge name. Kell may have been a huge name if he beat and became a unified champion. And who knows, Amir Khan might have come to the table if he was a unified champion. Amir Khan might have said, oh, Kell's a unified champion, let me fight him. You see, there's a lot of things that I feel like Kell made mistakes in his career. He was a good fighter, there's no doubt about it. He's a good fighter. Sometimes I'm a little harsh on him because of the Khan Brook situation, but I feel like Kell's had a lot of opportunities that he's missed. And he definitely could have been... he definitely missed a lot of opportunities. I've just mentioned them to you. There's many opportunities, like I said, at 154 and 147 where he missed out on. And that's not anyone else's fault but his own. There were opportunities there. So when people say Kell was avoided in this, that, and the other, he had opportunities there. Liam Smith wasn't going to avoid Kell Brook. Jesse Vargas wasn't avoiding Kell Brook. Jesse Vargas wanted that fight, right? There was many opportunities for Kell Brook, but Kell Brook himself, even Brandon Rios wanted to fight Kell Brook. That would have been a good name to have on Kell Brook, but Kell Brook, again, didn't fight him. So that's where I'm at with it. That's where I'm at with it. Like, I feel like there was a lot of opportunities for Kell Brook. The same way there was a lot of opportunities for Gennady Golovkin. I know Gennady Golovkin's at a much higher level, but Gennady Golovkin could have moved up and fought Andre Ward. He could have moved up and fought, maybe Kovalev at 170. There was opportunities there for him. If you don't take those opportunities, then that's your fault. That'll hurt your career, hurt your legacy. That's the way I look at it. But anyway, leave your thoughts, guys. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. And guys, remember to please like, share, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.